वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. Today we continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto First, Chapter 15. The Pandavas retired timely. Shloka number 9 and 20. Yat tejasa nrupashiraha
यत् तेजसा नृपशीरः
angri mahan ahanamkha artham
अङ्घ्रिम् अहन्मखार्थम्
arya anuja tava gaja ayut sattvavirya
आर्यः अनुजः तव गज अयुत सत्त्ववीर्यः
तेन आवृता प्रमथनाथ मकाय भूपाः।
तेन आहृता प्रमथनाथम् मखाय भूपा
यत्मोचिता तत् अनयन बलिम अध्वरेते।
यत् मोचिताः तत् अनय अन्बलिम् अध्वरेते
पत्न्यः तव अधिमुख क्लुप्तमः अभिषेकः।
पत्न्याः तव अधिमखः क्लिप्तमः अभिषेकः
श्लाघिष्ट चारु कबरं कितवै सभायाम्।
श्लाघिष्टचारुकबरं कितवैः सभायाम्
स्पृष्टं विक्र्य पदयोः पतित अश्रुमुख्या।
पृष्ठं विकीर्य पदयोः पतित आश्रुमुख्या
यत् यः तत्श्रियः अकृत हते हत ईश विमुक्त केशाः।
यत् तत् स्त्रियः अकृतहतेश विमुक्तकेशः
यत्तेजसा नृपशीरः अङ्घ्रिम् अहनमख अर्थम्।
यत्तेजसः नृपशीरः अङ्घ्रिम् अहनमखार्थम्
आर्यः अनुजः तव गज आयुत सत्त्ववीर्यः।
आर्यः अनुजः तव गज आयुत सत्त्ववीर्यः
तेन आवृता प्रमथनाथ मकाय भूपाः।
तेन आवृता प्रमथनाथमखाय भूपा
यत् मोचितः तत् अनयन बलिम् अध्वरेते।
यत् मोचिताः तत् अनया बलिम् अध्वरेते
पत्न्यः तव अधिमक कृप्त महाभिषेक।
पत्न्याः तव अधिमख क्लुप्त महा अभिषेक
श्लाघिष्ट चारु कबरं कितवै सभायाम्।
श्लाघिष्टचारुकब्रं कितवैः सभायाम्
स्पष्टं विकिर्य पदयोः पतित अश्रुमुख्याः।
स्पृष्टं विकीर्य पदयोः पतित अश्रुमुख्या
यः तत्श्रिय अकृत हत ईश विमुक्त केशाः।
यः तत् स्त्रियः अकृत हतेश विमुक्तकेशः
यत्तेजसा नृपशीरः अङ्घ्रिमोहनमखार्थम्। आर्यः अनुजः तव गज आयुत सत्त्ववीर्यः। तेन आवृता प्रमथनाथ मखाय भूपाः। यत् मोचिता तत् अनयन बलिम् अध्वरेते। पत्न्याः तव पत्न्याः तव अधिमख कृप्त महा अभिषेक। श्लाघिष्ट चारु कबरं कितवै सभायाम्। स्पृष्टं विकिर्य पदयोः पतिता अश्रुमुख्याः। यः तत्श्रियः अकृत हत ईश विमुक्त केशाः। हरे कृष्ण। प्लीज
यत्तेजसा
रिपीट।
नृपशीर अङ्घ्रिं महन् मखार्थम् आर्यः अनुजः तव गजायुत सत्त्ववीर्य तेन आहृता प्रमथनाथमखाय भूपा यत मोचिता तद अनयन बलिम अध्वरेते पत्न्या तव अधिमख क्लुप्तम महाभिषेक श्लाघिष्ट चारुकब्रम कितवः सभायां स्पृष्टं विकीर्य पदयोः पतित अश्रुमुख्या यह तत्स्त्रियः अकृत हतेश विमुक्त केशा.
Translation and purport by the Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarāsandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarāsandha's Mahābhairava-yajña, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty. It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreant, who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rājasūya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Kṛṣṇa with tears in her eyes. Purport by the Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jarasandha was a very powerful king of Magadha, and the history of birth and activities is also very interesting. His father, King Brodrat, was also a very prosperous and powerful king of Magad, but he had no son, although he married two daughters of the king of Kashi. Being disappointed in not getting a son from either of the two queens, the king, along with his wives, left home to live in the forest for austerities. But in the forest, he was benedicted by one great Rishi to have a son, and he gave him one mango to be eaten by the queens. The queens did so, and very were very soon pregnant. The king was very happy to see the queens bearing children. But when the ripe time approached, the queens delivered one child in two parts, one from each of the queen's homes. The two parts were thrown in the forest, where a great she demon used to live, and she was glad to have some delicate flesh and blood from the newly born child. Out of curiosity, she joined the two parts, and the child became complete and regained life. The she demon was known as Jara, and being compassionate on the childless king, she went to the king and presented him with the nice child. The king was very pleased with the she demon and wanted to reward her according to her desire. The she demon expressed her desire that the child be named after her, and thus the child was surnamed Jarasandha, or one who was joined by Jara, the she demon. In fact, this Jarasandha was born as one of the parts and parcels of the demon Viprachiti, the saint by whose benedictions the queens bore the child was called Chandra Kaushika, who foretold of the child before his father Brodrat. Since Sandha possessed demoniac qualities from birth, naturally he became a great devotee of the Lord Shiva, the Lord of all ghostly and demoniac men. Ravan was a great devotee of Shiva, and so also Jarasandha. He used to sacrifice all arrested king before Lord Mahābhairava Shiva, and by his military power, he defeated many small kings and arrested them to butcher before Mahābhairava. There are many duties of Lord Mahābhairava or Kali Bhairav or Kal Bhairav in the province of Bihar, formerly called Magad. Jarasandha was a relative of Kamsa, the maternal uncle of Krishna, and therefore, after Kamsa's death, King Jarasandha became a great enemy of Krishna, and there were many fights between Jarasandha and Krishna. Lord Krishna wanted to kill him, but he also wanted that those who served as military men for Jarasandha might not be killed. Therefore, a plan was adopted to kill him. Krishna, Bhim, and Arjuna together went to Jarasandha in the dress of poor Brahmana and begged charity from King Jarasandha. Jarasandha never refused charity to any Brahmana, and he performed many sacrifices also. Yet he was not on a par with devotional service. Lord Krishna, Bhim, and Jaras, Bhim and Arjuna, uh, Bhim and Arjuna asked Jarasandha for the facility of fighting him, and it was settled that Jarasandha would fight with Bhim only. So all of them were both guests and combatant of Jarasandha. And Bhim and Jarasandha fought every day for several days. Bhima became disappointed, but Krishna gave him hints about Jarasandha's being joined together as an infant, and thus Bhim dissected him again and so killed him. All the kings who were detained in the concentration camp to be killed before Mahabhairava were thus released by Bhima. Feeling thus obliged to the Pandavas, they paid tribute to King Yudhisthir. Queen Draupadi had a beautiful bunch of hair, which was supplied in the ceremonial function of Rājasūya. But when she was lost in a bed, Dushyasana touched her glorified hair to insult her. Draupadi then fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna decided that all the wives of Dushyasana and company should have their hair loosened as a result of battle of Kurukshetra. Thus, after the battle of Kurukshetra, after all the sons and grandsons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, all the wives of the family were obliged to loosen their hair as widows. In other words, all the wives of the Kuru family became widows because of Dushyasana's insulting a great duty of the Lord. The Lord can tolerate insult upon himself by any miscreant because the Father tolerates even insults from the Son. But he never tolerates insults upon his devotees. By insulting a great soul, one has to forego all the result of pious acts and benedictions also. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनः शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवाञ्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं स्वाद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांच नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात देश तारिणे वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा. We try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 15. The Pandavas retired timely. Here we try to understand shloka number 9 and 10. In 9 shloka, they describing about the Bhima's strength, how Bhim have 10,000 elephants strength, and then about the Jarasandha's birth katha, and uh, and then 10 shloka they describe about the how the Dushasan touched the hairs of Draupadi, and due to the um, aprad, he do the aprad on the lotus feet of devotee also, and that aprada is not accepted by the Lord Krishna. Also, Krishna decided, as he touched his her hairs, Draupadi's hair, like that. After the Kurukshetra war, all Dhritarashtra's sons and grandsons are killed, and after that war, all their um, daughter-in-law and daughter's granddaughter-in-law all are widowing, and they also opening their ears. And then after Bhima released the kings who are uh, Jarasandha uh, bind the kings for the sacrifice of the Kal Bhairav. All these points are described nicely. Prabhuji will tell us in detail. Hare Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Parthah न एव इह न अमृत विनाश तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याण कृत कश्चित दुर्गतिम तत गच्छति. Krishna says, son of Partha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. And here we are talking about the Pandavas and Draupadi, who are devotees of Krishna. So it was but obvious that Krishna will always protect them. And that is why they were under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if anything would have happened wrong to them, Krishna also always ensured that he is righting the wrong which used to happen. So in this shloka that we are talking about is the strength of Bhima. Now, as Mataji has explained, and the story is self-evident, Bhima had strength of 10,000 elephants, and that was again because of the mercy of Krishna only. Again, we see how Jarasandha was defeated, again with the mercy of Krishna only. Then we are told that Draupadi was insulted, her hair was touched inappropriately, and she surrendered to Krishna. So again, Krishna defeated by ensuring that all those miscreants, their wives had to have their hair on. So we are basically referring to two episodes out here. One specifically about Jarasandha Vad, and the second about how Draupadi was insulted in the royal assembly. Mataji has already explained how the demon Jara, she ensured that the two parts of the child which were born from two different mothers, they were united. And so she asked benediction that he be named after her, and that is why he was named Jarasandha. We also know that how his father, Brihadrath, since he had not got a son, he had gone to forests along with both his wife and was doing penances. And there, Chandrakaushik Rishi, he gives him the benediction to have son and asked a mango to be eaten. Now, king was not sure who should eat because king queen were two and apple was one. So he thought better distribute half to each. But never imagined that when the child is born, he would be born in two halves. But somehow, because of the act of Jara, the son was joined and he became one, and thereafter he became very powerful. And he was also actually the incarnation, or I'll say, as a part and parcel of Viprachit named demon. So he had all the demoniac qualities because he was already a part of demon. But then, as we see, all demons generally they worship Shiva, Lord Shiva, because he is very easy to be satisfied, and that is why he's called as Ashutosh. So Ravana was also a what I'll say devotee of Lord Shiva, and here we have Jarasandha also, who is a devotee of Shiva. And one of the avatar, one of the forms of Shiva is Mahābhairava. So Jarasandha used to do a lot of yajñas. He was pious basically. So in the yajñas, he used to sacrifice the kings. So he used to capture kings, keep them in prison, and then after doing when the yajna was happening, Mahabhairava-yajña, which he used to do, then he used to kill them in the yajna stali so that he gets more strength. Now Krishna wanted him to be killed, but then he also wanted that those who are the soldiers of Jarasandha, they should not be killed because they have not done anything wrong. And that is why our great Krishna, he created a plan. And according to that plan, both Krishna, Arjuna, Bhima went as Brahmanas. Jarasandha had the good habit of donations, giving charity, and never refusing charity. So they used it to ask for opportunity to fight. Now Jarasandha said, I cannot fight with Krishna because of this, I cannot fight with Arjuna because of that, but Bhima is somewhat similar to me, so I will fight with Bhima. But then he also treated them as guests. So every day they used to fight, and then after the fight is over, they used to have good, respectful interactions. Now, Bhima was wondering, he is fighting so strongly, but is still not able to defeat him. So what should he do? Generally happens with us also. We try, and when we see that we are not getting success, we sometimes feel maybe we are going wrong, and then we give up. Giving up is the best thing, easiest thing, and we all give up. Now, Bhima had reached that stage, and then he asked Krishna, what should I do? And then Krishna gave him the indication of what is to be done, of how he was born and joined together. So if he has to be defeated, he has to be thrown out. And that is how Jarasandha Vadh happened. And then because the king was killed, the prisoners were released. And all those kings, they felt, Kyare, Pandavas have released us. So they ensured that they respected Yudhisthir Maharaj. Now, what this makes us understand is that all strength that we can ever have, the source of that true strength is always Krishna. And we should always remember to attribute our success to Krishna. Every act of valor or achievement is only through surrender and blessings of Krishna. Secondly, against any kind of injustice, there's going to be divine retribution. And that is what the second shloka today is making us understand. How Draupadi was insulted in the ceremonial function. So generally, beautified hair properly bound is a sign of respect for ladies. But then Dusasana touched her glorified hair. To insult her, he brought her catching her hair. And Draupadi, she surrendered to Krishna. She fell down at lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna, he never tolerates insults about his devotees. So he was very angry. And so he ensured that all the wives of those uh, Dushashan and his brothers and everyone in his party, they had to loosen their hair. Generally, the uh, wives whose husband is no more, those who are widow, they cannot glorify, they cannot tie their hairs. And that is why all the members of the Kuru dynasty were killed in the war of Kurukshetra. And that is where we understand that there's always going to be divine retribution against injustice. And we also understand through Draupadi's act that surrender at the feet of Krishna is a model of humility. So, in moments of distress, turning to Krishna is the right path. So, in Krishna consciousness, we have to remember these two aspects here. One, we cannot ever think of doing anything wrong towards a devotee because Krishna never likes it. So, when we offend a sincere Vaishnava, it's not that we are offending a person, we are actually offending Krishna who is protecting him. Because Krishna is there in their hearts as Paramatma, and they are in the hearts of Krishna. Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tavaham. This is what Krishna has said. So, we sincerely have to repent for all the Vaishnava aparats we can commit. And then Lord responds positively and forgives our offenses. But it is always very difficult to repent unless we accept our own faults and realize the situation. In fact, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a verse, Yadi Vaishnava Aparada Uthe Hati Mata Upadena Chindetara Sukhi Yehi Pata. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried. So those who are very serious of doing Krishna Bhakti and going back home, back to Godhead, of achieving Krishna Prem, always have to avoid Vaishnava aparadh. Our devotional attitude increases in association of Vaishnava, but if we make a mistake, it is the end. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sanevasa janme janme haya yehi abhilasha. So Narottam Das Thakur ji from his personal example is saying that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor Acharya. Otherwise, we are going to be creating an offense. So there are six kinds of offenses which are generally documented in the Skanda Puran that can happen. So this is a verse which comes where it is said that defamation of the saints as violence and so forth, as well as verbal is an blasphemy. So basically six aparats are killing, blaspheming, being envious, hatred, not glorifying, being angry, and not being happy upon seeing a Vaishnava. So we should always avoid these six activities, which means that we should never be angry, we should never blaspheme, we should never be envious or hateful, we should always glorify, and we should always be happy upon seeing Vaishnavas. Otherwise, we would be committing an afraid, upfrad, creating an aparad, and Krishna will be angry and will get punished. Hare